Tonight on the program, following the drug scandal surrounding a Thai cabin crew member, why Thailand remains a transit country for drug trafficking and what Thailand is doing to tackle the problem. Then how Thailand and the UK are ramping up border controls to fight cannabis smuggling. And how family businesses in Bangkok's Yawarat Road adapt to rapid changes. สวัสดีค่ะ I'm Nad Bunag and welcome to This Week with Thai PBS World. In recent weeks, Thailand has made international headlines for all the wrong reasons. A Thai Airways cabin crew member was arrested in Melbourne for smuggling heroin. This has sparked renewed attention on Thailand as a transit country for drugs. So what is the Thai government actually doing to fix this persistent problem? Recent statistics from the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime show that 2025 was another year during which drug seizures in East and Southeast Asia reached record highs. If we look at each category of drugs, the seizures of methamphetamine reached 349 tons, which is a 48% increase from the previous year. Not only that, almost all meth seizures occurred in Southeast Asia. The same goes for ketamine seizures, which also saw record highs, as well as seizures of ecstasy, which rebounded this year as well. These record seizures show continuous high demand for these illicit drugs, which are coupled with transnational organized crime groups enabling drug production at an industrial scale. The drug seizures, particularly meth, are further concentrated in countries like Cambodia, Laos, Myanmar, Thailand, and Vietnam, where combined seizures represent as much as 76% of the region's total. Now let's turn our attention to where these drugs are being trafficked in this region. This is the Shan state of Myanmar, which borders several countries like the north of Thailand, Laos, and the south of China. Shan state is known for its conducive environment for drug production as well as many illicit activities. Myanmar's authorities discovered a number of drug manufacturing facilities earlier this year as well. From these facilities in the Shan state of Myanmar, the drugs are mostly trafficked from that state to nearby countries like Thailand and Laos, especially through natural border crossings. And this is not just Laos and Thailand only. It also goes through many other countries in the region. Apart from land border crossings, it also goes through maritime routes as well as air routes as well. You can see that it travels through several other countries, and it can go even as far as Australia, New Zealand, and Japan as well. So this gives you a good idea of how drug trafficking routes really work in the Southeast Asian region. UNODC's research officer on illicit drugs explains that in the Shan state of Myanmar, organized crime groups have been able to source precursors and use those chemicals to manufacture drugs illegally. The failure to prevent the flow of such chemicals has been one of the major factors in the surge of drug trafficking in the region. A lot of this is rooted in the presence of armed groups and difficulties in governance and law enforcement.
Because I think at the moment, most of the law enforcement efforts focus on individual seizures. So we see the record amount of seizures of methamphetamine and ketamine or heroin, whatever drug it is. The issue is we don't really see the addressing the root causes of this drug production and trafficking. I know that this is a very sensitive topic. It's political issues. It is not just about law enforcement matters. It is about governance, rule of law, and political issues in part of the Shan state. Everybody knows it. However, it is difficult to address it because it is not just about, okay, one day these myriad armed groups suddenly decide not to engage in illicit activities, not to cooperate with organized crime groups who wants to use the Shan state for their operational base. That is why we've been highlighting the issue of chemicals, because that to us, it is kind of practical solution to reduce the supply of drugs.
Looking specifically at Thailand, there is an upward trend in drug seizures, with the seizures of meth, crystal meth, and ecstasy seeing the biggest increases. And there is actually a similar trend across the region. But let's have a look at drug suppression efforts by Thai authorities during the past year, especially drug smuggling by air. Thailand's Office of the Narcotics Control Board said that they have arrested drug smugglers at airports last year, both outbound and inbound. And as you may have noticed, that Australia remains the top destination for drug smugglers from Thailand and Southeast Asia. And recently, these canine detection units have been deployed at Suvarnabhumi Airport to screen all passenger and cabin crew luggage before being loaded on board. The first flight being Thai Airways TG461 from Bangkok to Melbourne. Officials will be screening passengers' luggage and cargo 24/7 to prevent contraband from slipping through. This is part of the government's zero trust policy to overhaul airport security following the incident in which a Thai cabin crew member was arrested in Melbourne for smuggling heroin. Under this new policy, all pilots, cabin crew, and ground personnel will undergo the same rigorous screening processes as standard passengers without exception. Meanwhile, the evidence gathered so far suggests that the cabin crew member may not have knowingly participated in the drug smuggling operation. Thai investigators have yet to determine whether the woman knew that the tote bags she was carrying at the time contained heroin. UNODC also offered a different perspective on the scandal.
There have been many cases of flight attendants being targeted by criminal groups for carrying a certain amount of drugs, not necessarily a lot, but still they've been targeted. And whenever we look at some of the air carrier drug trafficking cases, not everyone had a criminal mindset, which means that they were sometimes forced or scammed to bring drugs out of one country to others. There were several cases of the people arrested for cannabis trafficking across Thailand to go to European countries, or from Malaysia as well. The second part I want to highlight is that we see that increases flows of heroin coming out from Southeast Asia to Australia. Australia has done some studies on their heroin use. We can see from their wastewater analysis that heroin use has been increasing in Australia quite rapidly over the last few years. I think there are huge incentives for criminals to bring heroin out of this Mekong region to Australia.
Unfortunately, drug smuggling will remain a difficult challenge to address, and the trend is likely to increase. We spoke with an analyst to find out why Thailand remains a transit country for drug traffickers and whether Thailand is doing enough to tackle drug trafficking along the borders.
Cheap pills, hidden bags, long borders. Drugs are not entering Thailand through just one weak spot. They are moved through a large network involving armed conflicts in Myanmar, powerful crime networks, and routes that use Thailand as a gateway to the world. The United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime, or UNODC, says the synthetic drug market in East and Southeast Asia kept growing in 2025. Methamphetamine seizures reached 349 tons, a new record for the region. Assistant Professor Dr. Lalita Hanwong, lecturer at the Faculty of Social Sciences, Kasetsart University, says Thailand's role as a transit point is not new because the country has two major advantages for drug traffickers. First, it has strong transport links, especially through Bangkok, which traffickers can use to move drugs further abroad. Second, it is located next to Myanmar, where the armed conflict has created space for drug production and trafficking.
The government of Myanmar cannot control what is happening in the country. Along the Thai-Myanmar border, which is huge, it's 2,401 kilometers. This long border has many EROs or ethnic armed organizations. As long as the conflict in Myanmar is still going on, it continues. We still see illicit drugs. We see lots of, black market and illicit business going on. And I don't think that the Myanmar government tries to do so much about this because they don't really know how to deal with a few groups of ethnic armed organizations that have so much power, that have so much money and so many resources.
The source of supply is also a key issue. UNODC says Myanmar remains the world's leading source of opium and heroin, with Shan State being the main area for growing opium poppies, a foundational source of narcotics such as heroin and morphine.
One of the most notorious groups in Myanmar right now is UWSA, or United Wa State Army. We all know in this region that in Wa State, in northern Shan State, this is a huge area where opium is grown, poppies are grown, where drugs of all sorts are produced. And because Myanmar has been sanctioned and boycotted throughout the world, it would be a lot more difficult to transit these drugs from Myanmar, from, let's say, Yangon Airport or Yangon Port. And because Shan State, where these drugs are produced, are very close to Thailand.
This is not only about geography though. Border communities have crossed rivers and mountains for generations. In some border areas, people can actually cross the rivers just to see each other, just to communicate, and just to do the daily things they have been doing for generations. Dr. Lalita says Thailand still relies heavily on armed patrols along the border. But with the Thai-Myanmar border stretching over 2,400 kilometers, it is increasingly difficult to monitor all border crossings around the clock using patrols alone. Therefore, Thailand needs to invest more in modern tools such as CCTV and infrared cameras to help officers detect illegal crossings and drug movements more effectively. Meanwhile, arrests and drug seizures are not enough. She says the authorities still needs to look deeper into the real cause of the drug problem. However, Thailand still finds it difficult to address the actual source of the problem because much of it lies beyond the border in areas controlled by armed groups in Myanmar.
You would hear people from the government citing this thing over and over again that, this is an international law. We cannot do anything beyond our border. So we need to use existing mechanisms to convince Myanmar, the Myanmar government, the military government that, this is what we should do together. This is what kind of partnership that we should have together. But this is not going to lead to any sustainable measure to tackle drugs because, let's face it, even the Myanmar government cannot do anything with what is going on in Shan State, in Wa State, in Kokang control areas, and all these areas where poppies are grown, where drug factories are in operation.
For Thailand, this is not just about seizing more drugs. It is about breaking the system that keeps bringing them in. As long as conflict continues across the border, and as long as traffickers can move faster than the state, Thailand will remain vulnerable for the flow of drugs. Gittipat Chunsukhjit, Thai PBS World.
Well, apart from drugs, another worrying issue is the smuggling of cannabis from Thailand. Following Thailand's decriminalization of cannabis back in 2022 and the backtracking on that change ever since, cannabis smuggling from Thailand has increased rapidly, especially to the UK. Recently, Thailand and the UK have strengthened their partnership to tackle cannabis smuggling. These headlines are just some of many about cannabis being smuggled out of Thailand. Such incidents are rapidly increasing, especially with the United Kingdom as the destination. Meanwhile, Thailand has gone through a tug of war to recriminalize the herb. UK and Thai authorities have entered a partnership to crack down on cannabis smuggling and have vowed to increase border control and law enforcement. Since Thailand decriminalized cannabis in 2022, the UK's National Crime Agency, or the NCA, has found unprecedented levels of cannabis smuggling by air passengers. Those arrested are mostly British nationals, but include some foreigners. According to the NCA, the number of air passengers smuggling cannabis and arrested in the UK jumped from 142 in 2023 to 801 in 1 year. This year alone, by the end of June, 600 smugglers had been arrested.
There's a misconception that Thai cannabis is much better than UK cannabis. Cannabis is cannabis. It's just that Thai cannabis is cheaper to grow and manufacture, so the profit for the crime groups appears to be greater, which is why the Thai cannabis is being used and smuggled. We're working very closely with Thailand, and I have to say they are doing an awful lot, our Thai partners, to try to prevent the volume of cannabis from leaving Thailand, and we are doing a lot in the UK as well. I think the volume is the issue, but with our collective work, we are starting to have an impact. More importantly, we're starting to ensure that the risk of getting caught is increasing and try to ensure that basically it's not worth the courier's time. And for the organised crime groups that are arranging this, your time is coming up for the cheap money.
Thailand itself has also seized large volumes of cannabis during the past year. The Thai Customs Department seized over 37,000 kilograms of cannabis between last October and June this year, worth 474 million baht. Punishment was revised on June 17th, where smugglers will now be fined 30,000 baht per kilogram of cannabis to discourage them.
เดิมเนี่ยของกลางเนี่ยเรายกของกลางคือเราไปจับแล้วให้เขาทิ้งของแล้วเขาให้เดินทางได้ แต่เราเห็นว่าพอเราไปยึดของเขาแล้วเนี่ยเขาก็เลื่อนการเดินทางอีก3วันกลับมาใหม่ไปซื้อมาใหม่แล้วก็พยายามลักลอบใหม่ถูกจับใหม่ก็พยายามเพราะว่าราคาที่ต่างประเทศเนี่ยมันมีมูลค่าสูงเกิน40เท่าของราคาที่เมืองไทยทำให้ความพยายามในการลักลอบเนี่ยมันมีเพิ่มก็มาเปลี่ยนกติกาเมื่อวันที่17มิถุนายนที่ผ่านมาเนี่ยเพื่ออะไรครับไม่ได้ต้องการเงินค่าปรับแต่เพื่อให้เขาลดละความพยายามเพราะว่าถ้าไม่มีเงินจ่ายค่าปรับเนี่ยก็ต้องไปถูกฝากขัง
The scale of cannabis smuggling and the nature of the challenge itself highlights the importance of cooperation between the two countries.
The UK law enforcement has been working really closely with customs, immigration and police, so right across the law enforcement spectrum, and that's both in the airports but also in parcel and container freight, so all forms of potential trafficking. Well, I think unfortunately, as we find with all kinds of drugs, there is a demand in the general population, not just in Europe, across Europe, across the world. And so Thailand is one of those relatively few countries that have decriminalized it, is a source, and so the demand is tapping into that.
Thailand's decriminalization of cannabis in 2022 has drawn social backlash, raising concerns over side effects, availability for recreational use, and easy access for youngsters. Prime Minister Anutin Chanvirakul, who once pushed for the legalization back when he was the public health minister, has announced major changes. He said on Wednesday that the Public Health Ministry has drafted a new bill to restrict cannabis only for medical purposes, which he believes will provide more clarity on how the controlled herb should be used. Anutin stressed that cannabis is a controlled substance and smugglers must face legal action, regardless of where they are arrested. The crackdown on cannabis trafficking requires strong collaboration with international authorities to punish those accountable and to make drug smuggling much more difficult. Nad Bunag, Thai PBS World. And in last week's episode of Thailand Stories, we visited Yawarat Road, which is one of Bangkok's most famous areas for street food. This week, we're still in this old town to visit 3 families whose businesses have grown alongside the neighborhood. Having witnessed decades of change, they share their stories and what it takes to adapt in an ever-evolving business landscape.
Bangkok is home to many historic neighborhoods, and Chinatown is one of them. Over the years, its character has evolved with the changing times. But in today's fast-changing market, sticking to traditional ways of doing business is becoming increasingly difficult. So the question is, should businesses adapt to new trends or stay true to their roots?
พี่ขายอยู่ตรงนี้ถ้าตีแล้วประมาณ36 ปี
ชื่อแต้เล่าจินเสงนะครับมีมาเกิน120 ปีแล้วครับ
3 generation
The 3 families we visited already facing some common challenges, from changing consumer behavior to technology to economic conditions, especially now that in-store sales are dropping.
สมัยก่อนค้าขายมันจะคล่องกว่านี้เยาวราชถ้าคุณมาคุณจะเห็นความเปลี่ยนแปลงทุกปีนะคะ
ก็อยู่ที่นี่มาตั้งแต่เกิดใช่ไหมครับก็เห็นว่าย่านนี้ก็คึกคักมากขึ้นครับตอนเด็กอาจจะไม่เห็นคนมาเดินถ่ายรูปมาหาของกินอะไรแถวนี้แบบเยอะขนาดนั้นนะครับตอนนี้ก็เห็นเยอะมากทั้งชาวต่างชาติทั้งชาวไทยเลยแล้วก็การขายครับเกี่ยวกับการธุรกิจใช่ไหมครับธุรกิจที่บ้านเนี่ยก็มันค่อนข้างสวนทางกับความคึกคืนของย่านแต่ว่ามันก็ทดแทนมาด้วยการขายร้านในออนไลน์
This traditional Chinese pastry shop is being run by the family's 5th generation. Their ceremonial pastries are used in weddings, mid-autumn festivals, and Lunar New Year.
ผมยกตัวอย่างเป็นขนมตัวนี้แล้วกันครับมาเรียกว่าขนมจันอับหรือแต่เหลี่ยวหลักๆก็จะมี5อย่างมีถั่วตัดงาตัดข้าวพองฟักเชื่อมแล้วก็ซกซาใช่ไหมครับซกซาหรือที่คนไทยอาจจะรู้จักในชื่อไข่จิ้งจกอะไรครับมี2สีขนมชนิดนี้ครับแต่ก่อนนะคือมันอยู่คู่ประเทศไทยมานานนะครับอยู่ตั้งแต่สมัยรัชกาลที่5เลยมีการจดบันทึกไว้นะครับว่าไม่ว่าจะใช้ในไม่ว่าจะเป็นเทศกาลหรือว่างานที่เกี่ยวกับต้องไหว้เจ้าอะไรครับคือก็จะมีขนมชนิดนี้ต้องใช้ตรงนี้มันก็จะมีไว้วางแบบพวกขนมที่ใช้มั่นขัดหมากใช่ไหมตรงกลาง
They even preserved the old shoulder poles that were once lent out to customers during festivals.
ใช่แล้วก็เดินไปสู่ขอ
And the design on the boxes has been around for over 60 years.
สมัยก่อนก็จะทำเป็นแผ่นกลมๆใหญ่ๆมีตั้งแต่ขนาดเท่าอย่างเงี้ยใส่กล่องนี้ได้จนถึงขนาดใหญ่แล้วก็จะจ้างพวกคนที่เขียนภาพด้วยผู้กันจีนมาเขียนก็คือเขียนเป็นไม้ต้นไผ่แล้วก็มีนกเกาะแล้วก็เขียนคำอวยพร
Sales are great during the festivals, but on normal days they sell about 200 pieces of pastries a day. And all the pastries in the shop are stamped in red.
เพื่อความสวยงามแล้วก็บอกยี่ห้อของร้านอะไรครับผมใช่ครับแล้วก็ใช้ในการบ่งบอกไส้ด้วยใช่ครับเพราะว่าเราไม่รู้ใช่ไหมว่าข้างในคืออะไรแล้วก็จะมีถ้าเป็นวงกลมก็เป็นถั่วถ้าเป็นตัวสี่เหลี่ยมขนมเปียกปูนก็จะเป็นไส้ฟัก
As time changes, consumer tastes evolve. Yet, for many shops like this one, originality may have become its greatest strength.
บางอย่างมันใช้ตาช่างวัดไม่ได้มันแบบต้องใช้ความเคยชินแล้วก็ช่างทำขนมบอกต้องใช้ใจด้วยถ้าพูดถึงเรื่องความดั้งเดิมของรสชาติครับคือไม่เปลี่ยนเลยมายังไงก็ไปอย่างนั้นครับผม
มันใส่นิดหน่อยนะแต่กินแล้วมันไม่เผ็ดแต่มันมีรสชาติ
Another family we talked to runs a crispy pork and pork floss shop right on Yawarat Road.
หวานอันนี้คือหมูหวาน
The recipe also hasn't changed for 3 generations.
คนจีนสมัยก่อนเขาจะไม่ทานหวานอยู่แล้วฉะนั้นหมูหยองของเรามันจะเป็นรสดั้งเดิมคือออกเค็มจะเป็นหมูหยองรสดั้งเดิมคือสูตรเดิมก็สูตรเดิมจะไม่ได้ ปรับไปตามยุค
A few blocks from this shop is a kitchenware store. Unlike the first two, their pots and pans are no longer handmade like the old days.
คือสมัยก่อนน่ะมันเป็นแฮนด์เมดแทบจะทุกชิ้นค่ะแล้วก็ด้วยความที่ยุคสมัยเปลี่ยนหลายๆอย่างมันก็ปรับเปลี่ยนไปในบางส่วนเรียนรู้มาจากพ่อแม่ค่ะเพราะว่าต้องยอมรับว่ารุ่นก่อนๆเนี่ยเป็นการเรียนรู้รุ่นต่อรุ่น
And the heritage accumulated over the years forms a foundation of their relationship with customers. Who would have thought that a small shop house tucked away in the corner of Chinatown like this one supplies to the kitchens of celebrity chefs in Thailand and Southeast Asia? Making use of the spaces in front of their shop house is another option. Cici, whose sister runs the kitchenware shop, sets up a tea stall and a custom-scented pouch stall in front.
ถือว่าขายมากี่ปีแล้วคะไอ้พวกน้ำผึ้งกับถุงหอม
2 ปีค่ะ
2 ปีถือว่าประสบความสำเร็จใช่ไหม
ใช่ค่ะดีมากเลย
นี่บรรยากาศแบบกลางคืนแอบตั้งก็ได้
There's even a photo booth too.
โฟโต้บูธเนี่ยเพิ่งมาเริ่มได้ประมาณ3 เดือนค่ะใช่เพราะว่าเทรนด์ตอนนี้มันแบบที่ไหนก็ต้องมีโฟโต้บูธเราก็เลยรู้สึกว่าเยาวราชเนี่ยโฟโต้บูธยังไม่มีเราก็เลยอยากเอาตรงนี้มาเสริมเพื่อมาตอบโจทย์ลูกค้าที่แบบ New Generation
For many family-run businesses, work and family life are deeply intertwined and multiple generations share the same workspace. It's about mutual support and understanding.
คิดตังค์ด้วยทำทุกอย่างตังค์ได้หมดรุ่นนี้เขาใช้ตังค์ก็ได้คิดเลขในใจ
ส่วนอันนี้
ก็กดดันนะครับด้วยระบบร้านที่อาจจะยังไม่ได้ปรับปรุงทันสมัยมากผมก็ต้องเข้ามาช่วยปรับปรุงแล้วก็ต้องแข่งกับคู่แข่งทางการตลาดที่เขาเน้นขายความแมสนะครับจริงๆก็อาจจะต้องมีบ้างครับแต่ว่าคือผมมองว่าถ้าเกิดอยากให้ร้านนี้มันคงอยู่ต่อไปครับมันต้องอะแดปมันต้องแบบปรับเปลี่ยนไปตามยุคสมัยครับไม่งั้นอยู่ไม่ได้ใช่เพราะฉะนั้นคนรุ่นเก่าก็ต้องฟังผม
While safeguarding its foundations, the current generation of shop owners is also redefining what it means to thrive, each in their own way. Ninya Kabush, reporting for Thai PBS World.
And these are really great examples of how businesses adapt from generation to generation. And that's all for this edition of This Week with Thai PBS World. Join us every Saturday at 10:30 p.m. only on Thai PBS. You can also follow us on social media and our website, thaipbsworld.com, for all the latest stories and analyses about Thailand. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next week. สวัสดีค่ะ
กับรายการสถานีประชาชนแบบใหม่แบบสับแซ่บสับกับอาจารย์ยิ่งศักดิ์
ตั้งแต่เรื่องเล็กที่ไม่มีใครสนใจยันเรื่องใหญ่ที่ต้องจับตาทุกปัญหายิ่งศักดิ์จัดให้
ความเดือดร้อนของประชาชน
เดียนจะไม่หยุดจนกว่าจะได้